And we're back, just like that, to another episode of Policy and Profits. It's EJ Antoni, back in the saddle. So glad to be back with the one, the only, trader extraordinaire, Anthony Esposito. Anthony, it's been a while. How are you doing?
Yes, sir. I missed the intro, for sure. Missed you, my man. Have been good but lonely. And a little, very, very happy to have you back. How are you doing?
You know what? I'm hanging in. I'm better than I deserve, in all honesty. It's been a wild ride. It was a crazy couple of months. The whole nomination process is, it's wild. That's probably the most appropriate word for it. But it's great to be back. Great to be back with you in particular. Talking markets, talking policy, talking profits. I'm looking forward to another good conversation.
All right. Well, you came back right in time. Obviously, we're in the midst of a shutdown. I think this is actually Trump's third shutdown, if you look at first term and this term. So we're in the midst of the shutdown. A lot of questions as far as what happens from here. Does the market care? What's going to go on with jobs, with the economy, so on and so forth. So I think Senator Kennedy had a great breakdown. I want to look at Senator Kennedy first. Talk about why we got to this point, why the CR was not passed by the Democrats. And this was, to be clear, not passed by the Democrats. There was nothing changed. It was a clean CR. It was, let's stay as is and get the other extension, the 7 weeks, to move forward and negotiate. They were not on board with that. I want to cut right to Senator Kennedy breaking down what the issue was.
Sir, good to have you back on. Where are we at tonight?
Well, we just took our last vote of the day. There will be a shutdown. Everything happens for a reason, but sometimes the reason is you're stupid and you made a bad decision. And my Democratic colleagues have made a very, very bad decision here. I knew they were going to do this 2 weeks ago when they listed their demands. They're demanding, for example, that we not check people on Medicaid for eligibility by income. Just let anybody sign up who wants to sign up. They're demanding that we give free health care to foreign nationals who are in our country illegally. They're demanding that taxpayers pay for sex change operations. If you list all of their demands and add them up, it's between 1.2 and 1.5 trillion dollars. Now, they know it's an unserious proposal. They know we're not going to accept it. That tells me that this decision to shut down government is not based on policy, Rob. It's based on politics. And here's the politics. The loon wing, the socialist wing of the Democratic Party, does not like Senator Schumer. And he wants them to like him. He wants them to love him. They have asked that government be shut down, and Senator Schumer has agreed. But once you shut down government, you've got to figure out how to get it back open. A wise person once said, if you pray for rain, you got to be prepared to deal with the mud. And I don't know how they're going to deal with the mud, because we will never, ever agree to this list of demands. So I guess we'll just stay shut down in perpetuity.
So I want to go through Senator Kennedy for a second, but there is one ultra MAGA, extreme right representative who had a lot to say about illegals and healthcare. I want to play the tape of her. She's an extremist. She is ultra MAGA. Let's get her on. Listen to what she has to say about it.
As to illegal aliens, we agree with you that we do not think the comprehensive health care benefits should be extended to those who are undocumented workers and illegal aliens. We do not want to do anything to encourage more illegal immigration into this country. We know now that too many people come in for medical care as it is. We certainly don't want them having the same benefits that American citizens are entitled to have.
I'm going to say just a couple of things, and I'm really going to hand this off to you. First of all, that was 1993. That was 1993. the smokescreen by the Dems, by the left in this country has been, it's beyond multi-decade. It's multi-generational. Okay. They have intentionally opened up the borders, allowed them to stay open. And I'm not saying every Republican has been fighting it the whole time, but what I am saying is this has been the plan for the left, which became liberal, which is now leftist and socialist, to destroy the country. Everything that they're looking for us to pay for hurts us. It is insane. Yes. It's insane that they're looking to add 1.3, 1.5, 1.2, $1 trillion in money that's not going to benefit the United States or its citizens, and not only not benefit, it's going to hurt us.
Right.
And they're going to hold us hostage. Us meaning not the Republicans, not conservative Christians, not us meaning citizens of this country that are just trying to move along and live in a better place and leave a better place for our children. They want to hold us hostage, put a gun to our head, and then ask us to pay for the policies that are destroying our own country. It's insane. And it's all Western nations. But just to show how long this smokescreen has happened, the second thing I want to say is this. The one thing Senator Kennedy displayed, aside from a great sense of humor, I would love to have lunch with him or a couple of scotches one night just to sit and listen to him. But the one thing he displayed was the thoughtfulness of, these are your actions. What's your next step? This is your policy. What is the effect of that policy? Mm-hmm. These are the things that the left doesn't consider because they're too worried about destroying the country or winning elections and keeping power versus doing the right thing for this country and letting us grow, letting us prosper, letting us be the United States of America. As great as she was, as great as she will be. Those are my two thoughts on it. I have to ask you, as you listen to Senator Kennedy, you look at this shutdown, where do you think this all kind of plays out? How does this play out? And what are your thoughts on the Democrats holding this line for non-citizens, for destructive policies once again?
Well, Anthony, they're trying to appease their voting base, frankly, right? And what's their new voting base? It's all these illegal aliens. I mean, they've been pretty clear about their strategy for a while now. They are trying to import new voters. And if you start taking away all of these government handouts from the folks who are here illegally, a lot of them are just going to go home, because they're only able to stay here and frankly exist and live here on the backs of American taxpayers paying all of their expenses, whether it's healthcare, whether it's food stamps, whether it's this half a dozen different housing programs that we have. I mean, it's absolutely amazing, especially in a liberal state like California or even Illinois or New York, where they violate federal statutes and give a lot of these handouts to illegal aliens. Again, even though the feds say you're not allowed to do that, the states flaunt it and do it anyway. Of course, the feds are paying for it, AKA American taxpayers, your federal income tax. So all that to say, as you start stopping the gravy train and as you take away all these different benefits to these illegal aliens, you're going to see a ton of them just self-deport, which is a big goal of this administration. Yeah. I've seen some estimates that we've already had over 1 million people self-deport this year. That's phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, even if you want to say a high-end estimate of something like 20 million people came here illegally under the Biden administration, you just got rid of 5% in like 6 months. Yeah. Phenomenal. 5% without any actual enforcement. I'm not talking ICE picking people up and sending them back home. I'm talking just people voluntarily leaving. That's great. And as you keep ramping up the pressure, I think you're going to see that escalate, which again is a great thing. People voluntarily just going home. We saw the exact same thing, by the way, under Eisenhower. We saw it under FDR as well. They took all these measures to get people to self-deport, and it worked. So I think that's great to see. And now with the shutdown, since you asked how's that going to play out, I think one of the things that's a very high priority right now for the administration is finding all of the different left-wing spending programs, including spending on illegals, and turning off all those taps. They've really I think the Democrats have really miscalculated here in giving the administration more or less a blank check to do what they want in terms of deeming what's essential and what's not. And what's really interesting is the sharp contrast here. Under Biden, or excuse me, not Biden, under Obama, What did they do when we had a shutdown? They made it as painful as possible for the American people. Do you remember when they closed the World War II memorial? And this is what makes me so just furious. The people who keep that memorial clean and everything and maintain it, they didn't have money to pay them, and yet they had money to pay them to set up barricades all around the memorial, so that World War II vets who came for a planned visit couldn't actually get to their own memorial. So the guys who are sitting there in wheelchairs, the guys who stormed Normandy and broke down those barricades, got up and broke down the barricades around their own memorial and went and visited it anyway. But it's just one of many examples of how Democrats, when they're in control during a shutdown, make it as painful as possible on the people. And now that Republicans are in power, they're making it as painful as possible, not on the people, but on the bureaucracy.
Yeah. No, please.
And so I think you're going to see a really, really big difference in terms of shutdowns of the past, where it's going to be the Democrats who feel some pain. The shoe's on the other foot, and they're finding that it's not very comfortable at this point.
So to that point, it looks like we had some statements come out of the White House as far as what I don't want to say strategy, but what kind of strategy through the shutdown to again make things better in this country, not worse. So we have a clip of Mr. Vogt, who was actually out and making a statement, or actually we have a Truth Social snip from the president who kind of hinted at where this is headed. So Russ Vogt, who I think has determined that many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends be cut, and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. They're not stupid people, so maybe this is their way of wanting to quietly and quickly make America great again, President DJT. So to this point, they really have opened up an opportunity here for the president and for the conservatives in the country to fix a lot of what is wrong as far as spending and budget and deficits, right? So if this prolongs, and we're going to look at the market reaction to past shutdowns in a minute, but the longer this goes, it's actually better in the long run for the U.S., for deficit spending, for debt levels, because it gives the president an opportunity, now that he has been handed the authority because of the shutdown, it gives him the opportunity to either permanently cut jobs that are non-essential and non-functioning, which, let's be honest, there's quite a few of them, and also to limit, reduce, or eliminate the payments that are going out of our dollars, of our taxpayer dollars, to these NGOs, which we know are left-wing in nature, leftist in nature, and funding organizations that are actually hurting the United States of America. It's a ridiculous, volatile, vicious cycle here where we're funding our own demise. And now I think it looks like, from what I'm reading and what I see, that the administration and the president understand that they're being given an opportunity because of the Schumer shutdown to actually cut a lot of this out. It's kind of like Doge on steroids, in my opinion. Is that a fair assessment?
Anthony, I think you just hit the nail on the head. Truly, Doge laid such a great foundation for where we're at right now, that now guys like Russ and guys like the president are in a position where it's even easier for them to identify a lot of the abuse, the corruption, the fraud, the waste. And once it's identified, now they can finally do something about it. And they virtually have carte blanche, which is really just amazing. And I love the layers to that Truth Social post, all the different ways, like starting off mentioning Project 2025, thank you, Democrats, for the unprecedented opportunity. Like, just all the ways that he just gets in there and tweaks the left. It's just, It's glorious. It's absolutely glorious. So I do think this is a really great opportunity. And again, you really hit the nail on the head, saying how the longer this goes on, the better it is for us in the long term, because of the cuts to spending, the cuts to borrowing, the reductions in the rate of growth of the debt, all of that absolutely 100% spot on. And then there's this really interesting dynamic. And, in full disclosure, I don't quite understand all the legal ramifications of it, but there's a technicality that happens at the 60-day mark.
Yes.
Where at that point, essentially, you get to because of basically because of not having funding for a position, you essentially get to eliminate it and fire the people who are there, versus what usually happens with these shutdowns, which are basically just paid vacations for government bureaucrats, because although they're not paid up front, they just get a balloon payment when they all go back to work, right? So essentially, again, it's a paid vacation. Yes, it may be hard on you for a few weeks, and yes, you may have to put stuff on a credit card, but chances are you're able to pay off the card right away as soon as you go back to work and get paid again.
That's
So
right.
it is going to be really interesting to watch this one as time goes on, and I'm sure we'll continue to do that if it does go a few more weeks. Here's hoping, right? We get to talk about this on a few more episodes. But yeah, this definitely feels like a little bit of a different beast than some of the shutdowns we've seen in the past, in a good way, as you highlighted.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, to your point, that 60-day point is kind of stuck in my head as well. And on day 61, the president can actually fire. I believe the full number of people that potentially could be fired on day 61 is 750,000 government jobs, right? So I don't want anyone to lose their job. I want to be really clear.
Right. Yeah, it's
I want
not that
everyone
at
to
all.
succeed
Exactly.
in this country. I want America to be the best that she can be. There's zero question. And that includes every citizen in the United States. That said, if you are in that 750,000 and you don't go to work and you haven't done a thing for months or years and you're just sitting collecting a check, or you have money being funneled into an organization that's actually hurting this country, adios. You can move on, figure it out, but you're not going to figure it out on taxpayer dollars anymore. And I think that's the point.
Yeah.
So if we look at the market now, let's relate the market to these shutdowns. I ran a quick search of the last 10 shutdowns, and here they are. So we start at the previous shutdown was 2018 under Trump. He had 2, and then we scroll down to 1981 under Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of things. Essentially, the shutdowns have been a non-event for markets. On balance, if you net out returns, it's actually a positive for markets. And there are different biases there. I don't know where in the economic cycle we were. I don't know where in valuations we were. It's not that clean, but just generally, broad stroke, the shutdowns have not crushed the equity markets. They've essentially been flat to up. And if you net it out, you've actually made over 10% in these periods, or the market has gained over 10% in these shutdown periods. I would argue, to kind of piggyback on your point, I would argue that this shutdown, because of the strategic angle of the administration, this shutdown could prove to be even a greater gain than previous shutdowns. I think it could be longer. I think that 60-day count is actually on everybody's mind. And as we know, President Trump plays 4D chess and everyone else is playing checkers. And he continues to prove that time and time again. It doesn't matter the topic. I am sure that they're watching this, and I'm sure that it's going to be a longer shutdown. Now that the Schumer shutdown has started, I don't know that the Republicans are going to bend really quickly to get the government back open, because they're actually helping us by not. And I think that message is being broadcast loud and clear. And I think that America across the board understands that. So this is actually a good thing. I think it could prove to be a very beneficial use of the shutdown. It's interesting to me that under Biden, I mean, we see 3 shutdowns under Clinton. We have 1 under Obama. We had 2 under Trump, now 3. There were 2 under Reagan, Bush Sr. It's amazing to me that under Biden, who arguably was the most inept and absent president we've ever had, if he even realizes that he was president. And I don't say that as a joke or lightly. I'm being serious. I don't even know if he knew where he was or what he was doing. And there's plenty of videotape and documentation of that. That's not an Anthony Esposito opinion. It's kind of fact. If you don't see that, it's on you. But it's funny to me that under that period, there were no shutdowns. We continued to pass the resolutions. We continued to move along. Now, the resolution that was shut down by Schumer and the Democrats now was the same resolution that they passed previously under Biden. So the only difference here is President Trump, is my point. So you threw the first punch, you shut down. now you put yourself in a position where you've given the cards, you've literally given the cards to the administration to further an agenda, which is an America First agenda and a solid agenda. I think over time, this shutdown will prove to be a very beneficial shutdown and the right strategic play moving forward. Now, I want to be clear. The shutdown occurred because the Dems did not vote yes on a resolution which they previously voted yes on multiple times under Biden.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that changed is the man sitting in the White House. So if that's the game they wanted to play, that's fine. That's the game they always play. And then they can gaslight us and lie to us and make all these excuses up about what they wanted, what they didn't want. We know what they wanted because it's written down and was presented. Great. But now you have to live with the consequences. In Senator Kennedy's words, now you have to live with the mud. And how are you going to deal with that? I would bet, and I hope, but I'm sure that Trump and the Republicans are more ready to deal with the mud than the Democrats are, because they never know how to deal with the mud. They create it and then they lie about it, and then it has to get cleaned up somehow. I think we're heading towards a big cleanup. I think this is a big positive. I do want to go into tariffs really quickly because President Trump came out with a few different tariff calls this week. He's looking at 50% tariffs on kitchen cabinets and bathroom cabinets, 30% on upholstered furniture, and 25% on big trucks, right? So you look at this and you say, okay, like kitchen cabinets, like, ottomans, what are we talking about? But it's really interesting. If you look at what he's targeting, it kind of leads you to, and I mentioned this yesterday on a Newsmax hit, it leads you to the real target. He's essentially, in my opinion, and I'd love to know what you think of this to close, he's essentially targeting specific nations through product, not through direct tariff negotiations with those nations. So the way I said it yesterday, like this is like the Michael Jordan no look past the Scottie Pippen of trade negotiations, right? Like they're looking at the product, but if you back away from it and you look at where those products are coming from, they're coming from Vietnam, from China, from Mexico, and from Canada. In fact, large trucks, big trucks, 60% of our imported big trucks come from Mexico. 60% of our kitchen and cabinetry and bathroom cabinetry comes from Vietnam. China's in the 20 to 30% range in furniture. So not only returning manufacturing and things that we can and used to make in the country, but targeting countries specifically. Do you think that's part of his strategy? Or do you think this was just, as the left will paint it, a random walk of tariffs and products?
No, Anthony, once again, I think this is a really good example of the phrase you used earlier where the president's playing 4D chess, everyone else is playing checkers. One of the things that the president has realized is that there are all kinds of countries around the world committing all kinds of trade abuses, including abusing things like country of origin provisions. So why are we being so tough sometimes on certain products from Vietnam and from Canada when we should be targeting China? It's because China is sending the stuff to Canada and to Vietnam. It's getting a made in Canada or made in Vietnam label slapped on it and then sent to the United States, but it was made in China. And so when we talk about even something like let me back up here. If something like a children's toy all of a sudden gets slapped with the tariff and it gets labeled as a national security concern, a lot of people rightly look at that and say, what, are you out of your mind? Why is this plastic child's toy a national security concern? I can see, some heavy industry that we would need to produce war material. That's one thing, but a children's toy, are you kidding me here? Pay attention to a lot more details than just the product itself. Where is it coming from? Who is actually making it? What are the types of materials that are going into this product? Because sometimes we need to help support, for example, a certain domestic industry that would be necessary for wartime, but in peacetime, the materials and the labor are used to produce something totally different. Right. Okay. So it's amazing how far reaching this national security concern can be. Now, that is the reason why it's such a slippery slope and why it's so easy to fall into pure protectionism once you start talking about something like, again, national security concerns. And I think that's where somebody like a Peter Navarro gets it so wrong, is that he goes full-blown protectionist and thinks that we don't need to trade with anybody. I'm exaggerating only very, very slightly here.
Yeah.
And I think that's where somebody like a Scott Bessent or a Howard Lutnick, our Treasury and our Commerce Secretary, have a much better grasp on how international trade works. And I'm glad that they're there to help advise the president on these issues, frankly, because again, you always have to pay attention to the nuances of what's going on here with each of these individual things, because, as you said, Anthony, it's not a simple matter. This is not just simply A to B or 1 + 1 is 2. There's a whole heck of a lot more going on behind the scenes. And that's why, again, I really appreciate how the president is now handling a lot of these trade negotiations. It is not just about the doors on your kitchen cabinets. It is a lot more subtle and sophisticated than that.
Yeah. Well, listen, as you're saying, that's spot on, and it's great insight. And I will close with this. As we look at how complicated the Make America Great Again movement is, as we look at all of the brush fires that need to be put out, from what they're teaching our children in kindergarten to trade negotiations and tariffs, to nuclear threats around the globe. Like this is a web, to say the least, of very complicated issues. President Trump is tackling all of them as if there's 30 of him in the White House, and you can love him or hate him. The bottom line is there is a ton getting done, and things are getting better. That's the Trump conservative side of the line. The leftist side of the line are people in bunny outfits and, blue hair and all sorts of crazy costumes on, running around the streets of Portland or Chicago, firebombing police, firebombing law enforcement, beating people in the street because they have a video camera, and just destroying the country from within. So, if you want to side with somebody who is a grown man with no job, running around in a bunny costume and firebombing police, that's your prerogative. It's America, but you'll have to deal with the mud. I'd rather deal with the side of the line that's working towards a better America for all of its citizens, and working towards figuring out these issues proper. But listen, bunny costumes or prosperity, choice is yours. I know where the mud is easier to deal with, so I'll stick on that side. EJ, wonderful to have you back. I greatly appreciate your time. I greatly appreciate you, my friend, and I hope you have a great week. I will see you soon. I'll be in D.C. over the coming weeks. I know you're going to be up towards me in the coming weeks, so I know we'll connect in person. But thank you very much, brother. It's good to have you back.
Anthony, it's my pleasure. Great to be back. Looking forward to chatting next week.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This was this week's episode of Policy and Profits. I'm Anthony Esposito, Dr. EJ Antoni joining me. See you guys soon.